The red sun of Keth 7 hung low in the orange sky as Dr. Elena Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead. She had been digging in the ancient ruins for 3 months now, and every day brought new questions. The dead planet showed no signs of life, but the massive stone structures buried beneath its surface told a different story. "Elena, you need to see this," called Jake Patterson from across the excavation site. The young linguist was crouched beside a freshly uncovered wall, his tools forgotten in the dirt beside him. Elena walked over, her boots crunching on the dry ground. The wall Jake had found was different from the others. While most of the ruins were made of dark stone, this section gleamed with a metallic finish that seemed to shift colors in the fading light. "What do you think it is?" Jake asked, running, his fingers along the smooth surface. Before Elena could answer, Sam Rodriguez jogged over from the Geological Survey Station. The bearded man was breathing hard, his equipment bag bouncing against his hip. "Elena, the ground scan results are back," Sam said, pulling out his tablet. "You're not going to believe this." Elena looked at the screen. The underground structure was massive, stretching for kilometers in every direction. What they had uncovered was just a tiny corner of something much larger. "How big is it?" she asked. "Big enough to be a city," Sam replied. "Maybe bigger. The deepest parts go down over 200 meters. Elena stared at the readings. In all her years as a xenoarchaeologist, she had never seen anything like this. The structure was older than any known civilization in the galaxy, yet the construction was too advanced for primitive beings. "There's something else," Jake said, pointing to symbols carved into the metallic wall. "These markings, they look familiar." Elena moved closer to examine the symbols. Her heart began to race. The symbols did look familiar, but that was impossible. They resembled ancient human writing, but older than anything found on Earth. "That can't be right," she whispered. "What can't be right?" Sam asked. Elena traced one of the symbols with her finger. It was definitely similar to early human script, but the style was different, more refined, as if someone had taken human writing and improved it over thousands of years. "These symbols," she said, "they look like human language." Jake and Sam exchanged glances. "Elena," Jake said carefully, "humans have only been in space for 400 years. These ruins are millions of years old." Elena knew he was right, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something important was hidden here. She pulled out her scanner and began recording the symbols. "Let's keep digging," she said. "There has to be more." They worked until the sun set, using portable lights to continue their excavation. As they dug deeper, more of the metallic wall was revealed. The symbols became more complex, forming patterns that looked almost like sentences. "Elena," Sam called from a few meters away. "I found something." Elena hurried over to where Sam was kneeling. He had uncovered what looked like a doorway, perfectly preserved despite its age. The door was made of the same shifting metal as the wall, and symbols were carved around its frame. "How do we open it?" Jake asked. Elena studied the door carefully. There was no visible handle or mechanism, but one section of symbols seemed different from the others. They glowed faintly with a soft blue light. "Maybe we don't need to open it," she said. "Maybe it opens itself." She reached out and touched the glowing symbols. The moment her skin made contact, the symbols flared brighter. The door began to move, sliding silently into the wall. Beyond the doorway was a corridor that stretched into darkness. The walls were lined with the same metallic material, and symbols covered every surface. But what caught Elena's attention were the lights that began turning on as they watched. After millions of years, the ancient structure still had power. This is impossible, Sam breathed. Elena stepped through the doorway, and the others followed. The corridor was wide enough for 5 people to walk side by side, and the ceiling stretched high above their heads. Everything was in perfect condition, as if it had been built yesterday. They walked for several minutes before reaching a large chamber. Elena gasped as the lights revealed what was inside. The room was filled with crystalline structures that rose from the floor like transparent trees. Each crystal pulsed with soft light, and symbols flowed across their surfaces like living text. "Are those computers?" Jake asked. Elena approached one of the crystals carefully. As she got closer, the symbols on its surface began moving faster, almost as if it sensed her presence. "I think they might be data storage," she said. "But more advanced than anything we've ever seen." Sam was examining the walls, which were covered with carved star maps. "Elena, look at this," he called. Elena joined him at the wall. The star map showed thousands of solar systems connected by lines. At the center of the map, clearly marked with special symbols, was a system that looked exactly like Earth's solar system. "That's impossible," Jake said, looking over their shoulders. "How could ancient aliens know about Earth's solar system in such detail?" Elena stared at the map. Earth was shown with its exact number of planets, including the outer worlds that humans had only discovered in recent centuries. The level of detail was incredible. "Maybe they weren't aliens," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Sam asked. Elena pointed to the crystal structures. "What if whoever built this place was human?" Jake shook his head. "Elena, that's crazy. Humans evolved on Earth. We have the fossil record to prove it." "But what if some humans left Earth millions of years ago?" Elena asked. "What if they came out here and built all this?" Before anyone could answer, one of the crystals began pulsing, brighter. Symbols flowed across its surface faster than before, and a sound filled the chamber. It was faint at first, but it grew stronger. "Is that music?" Sam asked. Elena listened carefully. It wasn't quite music, but it wasn't random noise either. It had a pattern, almost like a language. "It's responding to us," she realized. "The crystal is trying to communicate." Jake pulled out his recording equipment and began capturing the sounds. "If this is a language, maybe I can figure out how to translate it." Elena looked around the chamber with new eyes. The advanced technology, the detailed star maps, the symbols that resembled human writing, and now crystals that responded to human presence. The evidence was starting to pile up. "We need to contact Earth Command," she said. "This discovery changes everything." As if responding to her words, more crystals began activating throughout the chamber. The ancient structure was waking up after millions of years of silence, and Elena had the feeling that humanity was about to learn something incredible about its own past. 3 days later, the research vessel Aurora arrived in orbit around Keth 7. Captain Alex Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the planet's surface through the main viewer. He had seen many dead worlds in his career, but something about this one felt different. "Captain, the archaeological team is requesting immediate transport for their guest," reported Lieutenant Kelly Barnes from the communications station. "Guest?" Morrison asked. "Dr. Lisa Chen from the Linguistic Institute. She's here to help with the translation work." Morrison nodded. Dr. Chen was one of the most respected language experts in human space. If Elena Martinez had called for her help, the discovery on Keth 7 must be significant. An hour later, Dr. Chen materialized in the transport bay. She was an older woman with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. Jake Patterson was waiting to escort her to the ruins. "Dr. Chen, thank you for coming so quickly," Jake said as they shook hands. "Jake, I've been following your work," Chen replied. "Your preliminary reports are fascinating. Ancient symbols that resemble human writing. I had to see for myself." They took a shuttle down to the planet's surface, where Elena was waiting at the excavation site. The ruins looked different now. More lights were active throughout the structure, and the crystal chamber hummed with energy. "Lisa, I'm glad you're here," Elena said, embracing her old friend. "We need your expertise. What we've found doesn't make sense." Dr. Chen followed Elena and Jake into the crystal chamber. Her eyes widened as she saw the pulsing crystalline structures and the symbols flowing across their surfaces. "Remarkable," she breathed. "The crystals are active. They respond to human presence," Elena explained. "The closer we get, the more active they become. And they're producing sounds that Jake thinks might be language." Dr. Chen approached one of the crystals carefully. As she got within arm's reach, the symbols on its surface began moving faster, and musical tones filled the chamber. "Play me the recordings," Chen said. Jake activated his equipment, and the crystal sounds filled the chamber. Dr. Chen listened intently, her expression growing more puzzled by the minute. "This is extraordinary," she said finally. "The tonal patterns, they're not random. There's definitely linguistic structure here." "Can you translate it?" Elena asked. "Give me time," Chen replied. "But first, show me these wall symbols you mentioned." They spent the next several hours examining the carved symbols throughout the structure. Dr. Chen took detailed photographs and made careful notes. The more she studied, the more excited she became. "Elena, this is incredible," she said as they worked. "These symbols aren't just similar to human writing, they're clearly derived from it." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Dr. Chen pointed to a series of symbols carved into the wall. "Look at this sequence. It starts with symbols that look exactly like ancient human pictographs. But as you read along, the symbols become more complex, more refined." Elena studied the progression. "Like the writing system evolved over time?" "Exactly, as if someone took early human writing and developed it over thousands of years." Dr. Chen paused, looking troubled. "But that's impossible. These ruins are millions of years old." They continued working through the night, using portable lights to illuminate the chamber. Captain Morrison joined them after his shift ended, bringing fresh supplies and hot food. "Any progress?" he asked as they took a break. "Some," Dr. Chen replied. "I'm starting to understand the basic structure of the written language, but the crystal communications are more complex." "What do they say?" Morrison asked. "That's the problem. The few phrases I've been able to translate don't make sense." Dr. Chen pulled out her notes. "Near as I can tell, one of the crystals keeps repeating something like the first wanderers or the original travelers." Elena felt her pulse quicken. "What else?" "References to the Great Silence and the Long Sleep, and something about seeds planted in distant soil." Dr. Chen shook her head. "It reads like poetry, not technical data." Jake leaned forward. "What about the star maps? Have you found any text that refers to those?" Dr. Chen nodded. "That's the most disturbing part. I found several references to what translates as the home star or the origin point. And in every case, the description matches Earth's solar system perfectly." Captain Morrison frowned. "How perfectly?" "They describe a yellow star with 8 major planets. The third planet is described as blue and green with white clouds, and the birthplace of the Wanderers. Dr. Chen looked around the group. They even mentioned the correct number of moons for each planet. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. That information should be impossible for ancient aliens to know. Unless they weren't aliens, Morrison said quietly. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. There's something else. I found what appears to be a date reference. How old? Elena asked. If I'm reading it correctly, this facility was built approximately 3.7 million years ago. Jake shook his head. But modern humans only evolved 300,000 years ago. Modern humans, Dr. Chen emphasized. But what if there were earlier human civilizations? What if some group of early humans achieved spaceflight millions of years ago? Morrison stood up and began pacing. That would explain the advanced technology and the detailed knowledge of Earth. But where did they go? Elena asked. If ancient humans built this place, what happened to them? Dr. Chen returned to her work, studying the crystal communications more carefully. After an hour, she called the others over. I think I found something, she said. One of the crystals appears to be some kind of introduction or greeting message. What does it say? Elena asked. Dr. Chen read from her notes. Welcome, children of the origin world. You have found the first marker of the great network. The long silence ends. The wanderers return to their inheritance. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of the crystals. Children of the origin world, Morrison repeated. They're talking about us, about humans. Elena stared at the crystal structures with new understanding. This isn't just an archaeological site. It's a message left for us. But why? Jake asked. Why would ancient humans leave messages for their descendants? Dr. Chen continued reading. The network sleeps until the inheritors return. 12 points of light mark the path to the center. When all points shine, the ancient ways will open once more. 12 points of light, Elena said. 12 locations? Morrison pulled out his communicator. I need to contact Earth Command. If there are 11 more sites like this one, we need to find them. As if responding to their conversation, the crystals throughout the chamber began pulsing in unison. The lights grew brighter, and new symbols appeared on their surfaces. Something's happening, Jake said. Dr. Chen watched the symbols flowing across the crystals. It's like they're updating, adding new information. Elena approached the nearest crystal. As she got closer, she could see her reflection in its surface. But overlaid on her reflection were symbols, glowing with soft blue light. Lisa, look at this, she called. Dr. Chen joined her. The symbols. They're showing up on your reflection, as if the crystal is recognizing you. Elena reached out to touch the crystal's surface. The moment her hand made contact, the entire chamber was filled with light. Images appeared in the air around them, star maps, technical diagrams, and symbols flowing like liquid text. When the light faded, new information was carved into the walls. Dr. Chen immediately began photographing the fresh symbols. What just happened? Morrison asked. Elena stared at her hand, which was still glowing, faintly. I think the network recognized me, recognized us. It's starting to wake up. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, staring at the holographic display that showed reports coming in from across human space. In the 3 weeks since Elena Martinez's discovery on Keth 7, similar ruins had been found on 12 other worlds. "Admiral, we have another confirmation," reported Commander David Park, approaching with a tablet in hand. "The archaeological team on New Harmony has uncovered structures identical to the ones on Keth 7. Sullivan nodded grimly. "That makes 13 sites total, all with the same crystalline technology and the same symbols." "There's more, Admiral. Dr. Ben Carter's team on Vega Prime reports that their crystals activated the moment humans entered the facility, just like on Keth 7. Sullivan turned to study the star map display. The 13 archaeological sites formed a perfect spiral pattern across known human space, with Earth sitting at the center of the spiral. "Commander, get me a secure channel to Dr. Maya Patel on Titan Station," Sullivan ordered. A few moments later, Dr. Patel's image appeared on the main screen. The xenoarchaeologist looked tired, but excited. "Admiral, I was hoping you'd call," Patel said. "Our preliminary analysis of the Titan ruins is complete. These structures are definitely part of a larger network." "Explain," Sullivan said. "Each site contains identical crystal technology, but they're all connected somehow. When we activated the crystals here, we detected energy signatures from the other 12 sites. They're communicating with each other." Sullivan felt a chill. "Communicating how?" "Quantum entanglement, near as we can tell. Instantaneous communication across thousands of light years. Admiral, this technology is far beyond anything we have." Commander Park stepped forward. "Dr. Patel, have you been able to translate any of the local symbols?" "Some. The messages are similar to what Dr. Chen found on Keth 7. References to the Wanderers, the Great Network, and the Inheritors. But there's something else." Patel paused. "The crystals keep displaying Earth's coordinates, not just the solar system. Precise coordinates for the planet itself." Sullivan exchanged glances with Park. "As if they're pointing toward Earth." "That's what we think. Admiral, I believe these sites are navigation markers, a trail leading back to humanity's origin point." After ending the call, Sullivan turned to Park. "What's the status of the deep space surveys?" 3 more teams are investigating potential sites based on the spiral pattern. If the pattern holds, we should find at least 20 more locations." Sullivan nodded. "And the crystals? Are they still activating?" "Yes, Admiral. Every site reports increased activity. The crystals are definitely responding to human presence." Park hesitated. "Admiral, there's something else. Energy readings from all 13 sites have increased by 30% in the last week." "Increased how?" "We're not sure. It's as if the network is powering up, getting ready for something." Sullivan walked to the main viewer, which showed Earth hanging in space below the station. "Commander, I want every archaeological team equipped with military observers, and I want our best ships standing by at each site." "You think there's danger, Admiral?" "I think we're dealing with technology that's millions of years ahead of ours." "That kind of power," Sullivan trailed off. "Just make sure we're prepared for anything." Meanwhile, on the research vessel Aurora, still orbiting Keth 7, Dr. Elena Martinez was experiencing the network's awakening firsthand. The crystal chamber had transformed over the past week. New crystalline structures had grown from the floor, and the walls now displayed star maps that updated in real time. "Elena, you need to see this," called Jake Patterson from across the chamber. Elena hurried over to where Jake and Dr. Chen were studying a new section of wall symbols. "What did you find?" she asked. Dr. Chen pointed to a sequence of freshly carved symbols. "These weren't here yesterday. The wall is writing new messages." Elena studied the symbols. They were similar to the older carvings, but more complex, as If the ancient system was becoming more sophisticated, can you read them? She asked. Some of it. This section talks about awakening the sleeping paths and opening the ancient roads. But this part is confusing. Dr. Chen indicated a group of symbols near the bottom. It seems to be giving instructions. Instructions for what? Near as I can tell, it's telling us to gather at the heart of the network. The center point. Jake looked up from his own notes. Elena, we've been assuming Earth is the center because it's at the middle of the spiral pattern. But what if there's an actual facility? A central control point? Before Elena could answer, the crystals throughout the chamber began pulsing in unison. The humming sound grew louder, and new symbols appeared on every surface. Something's happening, Elena said. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communicator. Elena, we're detecting massive energy spikes from your location. Are you safe down there? We're fine, Alex, Elena replied. The network is becoming more active. Suddenly, the air in the chamber shimmered, and a three-dimensional image appeared above the central crystal. It showed a star map of the galaxy, with bright points of light marking the location of each archaeological site. Incredible, Dr. Chen breathed. The image zoomed in on the spiral pattern, and Elena could see energy flowing between the marked points like streams of light. The energy was all flowing toward the center, toward Earth. It's a network map, Elena realized. The whole galaxy. Jake pointed to sections of the map that showed additional light points. Look, there are more sites. Hundreds of them. Elena stared at the display. The network was vast, spanning the entire galaxy, and all of it was somehow connected to Earth. Dr. Chen, what do the new symbols say about this network? Dr. Chen studied the fresh carvings. They call it the Great Work and the foundation of all paths. Elena, I think this network isn't just for communication. What else could it be? Transportation. These ancient roads they keep mentioning. I think they're talking about some kind of travel network. Instant transportation across the galaxy. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. A galactic transportation system built millions of years ago by humans. Morrison's voice crackled through the communicator. Again, Elena, Earth Command is reporting similar energy spikes at all 13 sites. Admiral Sullivan wants a full report. Elena looked around the transformed chamber. The ancient network was awakening after millions of years, and humanity was at the center of it all. Jake, how long would it take to reach Earth from here using conventional drives? She asked. 3 months minimum. Elena studied the flowing energy patterns in the holographic display. I think the network wants us to come home, and I think it's going to show us how. As if responding to her words, one of the larger crystals began projecting a new image. It showed Earth's solar system in perfect detail, with a pulsing light marking a location just outside Jupiter's orbit. There, Elena said, pointing to the light. That's where we need to go. Dr. Chen was reading the newest symbols. Elena, according to this, the network has been waiting for us. Waiting for the inheritors to return and claim their heritage. What heritage? Dr. Chen looked up from the wall, her face pale. Control of the galaxy's infrastructure. Elena, I think our ancestors didn't just build this network. They built the foundation that all galactic civilization depends on. Elena felt the weight of the discovery settling on her shoulders. Humanity wasn't just finding ancient ruins. They were discovering that their own species had once built the framework that connected the entire galaxy. And now, after millions of years, that network was waking up. Ambassador Ryan Clark adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform as he walked through the corridors of Harmony Station. The massive space station served as neutral ground for galactic diplomacy, built and maintained by the 7 species that made up the Galactic Council. Today would mark humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. Ambassador, the Council representatives are waiting in Conference Chamber 1, reported his aide, Lieutenant Nancy Foster. The full delegation is present. Ryan nodded, trying to calm his nerves. Humanity had been sending radio signals and exploring space for centuries, but they had never encountered intelligent alien life. 3 months ago, everything changed when the Galactic Council sent a formal invitation for diplomatic contact. "Any last-minute intelligence on the council members?" Ryan asked as they approached the chamber doors. "The briefing packet covers the basics, sir. 7 species ruling the galaxy for about 50,000 years. The Zephyrians appear to be the dominant political force, followed by the Nexari and the Corthans. The others seem to have smaller roles." Ryan paused outside the chamber doors. "Nancy, make sure you record everything. This is history in the making." The doors slid open to reveal a circular chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. 7 distinct groups of beings sat around a curved table, each delegation representing a different alien species. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. Their leader, Chancellor Prime Vexhai, gestured for Ryan to approach. The Nexari resembled large insects with multiple arms and complex vocal organs. The Corthans were reptilian, covered in dark scales and watching everything with predatory attention. "Ambassador Clark of the human species, Chancellor," Vexhai said in accented but clear English. "Welcome to the Galactic Council. We are pleased to finally meet the inhabitants of the Sol System." Ryan took his designated seat. "Thank you, Chancellor. Humanity is honored by this invitation." "Your species has been developing rapidly," said Nexus Clactor, speaking for the Nexari delegation. "We have been monitoring your progress with interest." "Monitoring us?" Ryan asked. "Standard procedure," explained Chancellor Vexhai. "We observe developing species until they achieve interstellar travel. You humans have shown remarkable adaptability." A Corthan delegate leaned forward. "Your expansion has been aggressive. 12 star systems claimed in just 4 centuries. Ryan chose his words carefully. "Humanity has always been explorers. We seek new worlds and new knowledge." "Knowledge," repeated Chancellor Vexhai. "Yes, we understand your scientists have made some interesting discoveries recently." Ryan felt a chill. The archaeological discoveries on Keth 7 and the other sites were classified at the highest levels. How could the aliens know about them? "I'm not sure what you mean, Chancellor." The alien delegates exchanged glances. One of the smaller species, the insectoid Vervani, spoke up through a translation device. "Ambassador Clark, we are aware that your archaeologists have uncovered certain ancient sites of considerable age." Ryan decided to test the waters. "Humanity has always been interested in ancient civilizations. Our scientists study the past to better understand the galaxy." The reaction was immediate. Several delegates began speaking rapidly in their own languages, and Chancellor Vexhai raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador," the Chancellor said carefully, "these sites you have discovered, do they contain crystalline technology, symbols that respond to your presence?" Ryan's heart began racing. The aliens definitely knew about the network. "Why do you ask, Chancellor?" "Because," said Nexus Clactor, "those sites belong to the architects, the Architects? Chancellor Vexhai stood and walked to the star display. Millions of years ago, when our civilizations were young, the galaxy was ruled by a species called the Architects. They built the hyperspace lanes we use for travel. They created the quantum communication networks that connect our worlds. They established the very foundation of galactic civilization. Ryan listened intently as the Chancellor continued. The Architects were advanced beyond our understanding. They could manipulate space and time, build structures that lasted millions of years, and communicate instantly across the galaxy. And then one day, they simply vanished. What happened to them? Ryan asked. No one knows. They left behind their great works, the hyperspace network, the communication systems, the ancient facilities that still function today. But the Architects themselves disappeared without explanation. A Corthan delegate spoke up. Some say they ascended to another plane of existence. Others believe they went into hiding. But their technology remains active, maintaining itself for millions of years. Chancellor Vexhai returned to his seat. Ambassador Clark, the sites your people have discovered are Architect facilities. They have been dormant for eons, responding to no species we have encountered. Until now, added Nexus Clactor ominously. Ryan realized the conversation had taken a dangerous turn. Chancellor, are you suggesting that humans are somehow connected to these Architects? We are suggesting nothing, Ambassador. We are stating a fact. Architect technology responds only to Architect genetic patterns. If your people can activate these sites, there is only one logical conclusion. The chamber fell silent. Ryan could feel the weight of 7 alien species staring at him, waiting for his response. That's impossible, Ryan said finally. Humanity evolved on Earth. We have fossil records going back millions of years. Perhaps, said Chancellor Vexhai, but the evidence suggests otherwise. The question now is what your species intends to do with this knowledge. A smaller delegate from the Yithran species spoke through a translation device. The Architect Network controls galactic infrastructure, hyperspace travel, quantum communications, even the star maps we use for navigation. If humans can control this network. The implication hung in the air. Ryan understood now why the Council had been so eager to make contact. They weren't welcoming humanity to galactic civilization. They were afraid of them. Chancellor, Ryan said carefully, humanity seeks only peaceful coexistence with other species. We have no desire to control or dominate. Perhaps not, replied Chancellor Vexhai. But desire and capability are different things. The Architects had the power to reshape the galaxy. If humans are their inheritors, we would prefer to avoid another age of Architects, said the Corthan delegate bluntly. Ryan felt the diplomatic situation sliding toward disaster. What exactly are you proposing, Chancellor? Restrictions, said Nexus Clactor. Limits on human expansion, monitoring of your archaeological activities, shared control of any Architect facilities you discover. And if we refuse? Ryan asked. The chamber fell silent again. Finally, Chancellor Vexhai spoke. Ambassador, the Galactic Council maintains peace through cooperation. Species that threaten that peace face collective action. Ryan understood the threat. 7 species against 1. Humanity was technologically inferior and vastly outnumbered. I'll need to consult with my government, Ryan said. Of course. But we suggest you consult quickly, Ambassador. The Architect sites your people have activated are sending signals across the galaxy. The ancient network is awakening. We cannot allow such power to remain uncontrolled. As Ryan left the chamber, his mind raced with implications. Humanity had stumbled onto technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The aliens were afraid, and fear made them dangerous. But Ryan also realized something else. If humans really were connected to the architects, then the galaxy's infrastructure already belonged to them. The question was whether humanity would claim its inheritance before the Council took action to prevent it. Lieutenant Foster was waiting in the corridor. "How did it go, sir?" Ryan looked back at the chamber doors. "Nancy, get me a priority channel to Earth Command. We need to warn them that we're not just making first contact. We're walking into a war." Engineer Tony Williams floated in zero gravity inside the crystal chamber of Research Station Endeavour, studying the alien technology with wonder and frustration. The station had been hastily constructed in Jupiter's orbit, at the exact coordinates the Keth-7 network had indicated. What they found there defied every law of physics he knew. "Tony, are you seeing this?" called Dr. Rachel Kim from across the chamber. The quantum physicist was examining a crystalline structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it," Tony replied, running his scanner over a control surface that responded to his thoughts rather than his touch. "This technology is millions of years ahead of anything we can build." The chamber they were exploring was part of a massive space station that had been hidden in Jupiter's magnetosphere. The station was older than Earth's solar system, yet every system functioned perfectly. Most disturbing of all, it had activated the moment human ships approached. Captain Scott Davis drifted over to join them. "Any progress understanding how it works?" "Some," Dr. Kim replied. "The crystals appear to be quantum processors, but they're using principles we haven't discovered yet. They can manipulate space-time on a fundamental level." Tony pointed to a wall display showing energy flows throughout the station. "Captain, this facility isn't just a control center, it's a hub. Energy is flowing to and from thousands of points across the galaxy." "The network we found on the planets?" Davis asked. "All of it. Every archaeological site, every ancient facility. They're all connected through this station." Tony pulled up a holographic display. "And there are thousands more sites we haven't found yet." Dr. Kim approached one of the larger crystal arrays. As she got closer, symbols began appearing on its surface. "The crystals are definitely designed to interface with human neural patterns. They read our brain waves and respond accordingly." "But why?" Davis asked. "Why would ancient technology be designed specifically for humans?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber filled with light. The crystal arrays activated in sequence, and the walls began displaying star maps and technical diagrams. "Something's happening," Tony said, checking his instruments. "Power levels are spiking throughout the station." The holographic display expanded, showing the entire galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked the locations of network nodes, all connected by streams of energy. At the center of it all was Earth's solar system. "It's a complete map of galactic infrastructure," Dr. Kim breathed. "Hyperspace lanes, communication networks, transportation corridors, all of it." Tony studied the energy flows. "Rachel, look at this. The hyperspace lanes that all the alien species use for travel. They're part of this network." "What do you mean?" "I mean, the aliens didn't build their own transportation system. They're using infrastructure that was already here. Infrastructure built by whoever created this network." Captain Davis activated his communicator. "Admiral Sullivan, are you receiving our data transmission?" Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled through the speaker. "We're seeing it, Captain. Are you telling me that the galaxy's transportation network was built by the same people who created these archaeological sites? That's exactly what we're telling you, Admiral, Tony replied. Every major hyperspace route, every communication relay, every piece of infrastructure the Galactic Council depends on. It's all part of this ancient network. Dr. Kim was studying the neural interface systems more closely. Admiral, there's something else. The network isn't just designed to work with humans. It's designed to be controlled by humans. We're not just compatible with this technology. We're the only species that can access its full capabilities. Through the communicator, they could hear Admiral Sullivan discussing the implications with her staff. Finally, she spoke again. Dr. Kim, are you saying that humans are the only ones who can control galactic infrastructure? Based on what we're seeing here, yes. The aliens have been using this network for thousands of years, but they can only access basic functions. They can't control it or modify it. Tony had found what appeared to be a master control interface. The crystalline surface was covered with symbols that looked like advanced human writing. Admiral, I think I found the main control system. Can you operate it? Sullivan asked. Tony hesitated. I think so. The interface is responding to my presence. But Admiral, if I activate this system, it might be visible to the entire galaxy. What do you mean? Dr. Kim answered. Admiral, this network spans the entire galaxy. If we take control of it, every alien species will know immediately. They'll realize that humans have access to technology they can't match. Captain Davis looked at the control interface. What are our options, Admiral? There was a long pause before Sullivan responded. Captain, Ambassador Clark has reported that the Galactic Council is already planning to restrict our activities. They're afraid of our connection to this network. 3 Council fleets are moving toward human space. Tony felt his heart sink. They're coming to stop us? They're coming to ensure we don't gain control of the network. But here's the problem. According to our intelligence, their ships use hyperspace routes that are part of this very network. Dr. Kim looked up from her analysis. Admiral, if we control the network, we control their ability to travel. Exactly. The question is whether we activate the system before they reach us, or whether we let them dictate terms. Tony studied the control interface. The symbols were becoming clearer to him, as if the system was teaching him how to use it. He could sense the vast network stretching across the galaxy, waiting for commands. Admiral, there's something else, he said. This isn't just a control system. It's also a manufacturing network. The stations can build ships, equipment, even entire facilities. How is that possible? Sullivan asked. Dr. Kim had found additional displays. Matter conversion technology. The network can transform raw materials into finished products instantly. Admiral, whoever built this system could construct fleets of ships in hours instead of years. The implications were staggering. Not only could humans control galactic transportation, they could also outproduce every other species combined. Captain Davis, Admiral Sullivan said finally, I need your assessment. Can we safely activate the network? Davis looked around the chamber. Admiral, the technology is stable and responsive, but once we turn it on, there's no going back. Every species in the galaxy will know that humans have access to architect technology. And if we don't activate it, then we face 3 Council fleets with conventional weapons and ships. We'll be vastly outnumbered. Tony placed his hands on the control interface. The crystals responded immediately, and he could feel the network's vast potential flowing through his mind. Admiral, he said, I can see the entire network from here. Every hyperspace lane, every communication relay, every ancient station. It's all connected. and it's all waiting for us to take control. Tony, what happens if you activate it? The network comes online under human control. We gain access to transportation, communication, and manufacturing capabilities that surpass anything the Council has. But they'll also lose their ability to travel freely through our space. Dr. Kim was monitoring the alien fleet movements. Admiral, the lead Council ships will reach the outer system in 6 hours. Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was firm. Tony, activate the network. If humanity is truly connected to the architects, then it's time we claimed our inheritance. Tony pressed his palms against the crystal interface. Energy flowed through him as the ancient network awakened fully for the first time in millions of years. Across the galaxy, dormant stations powered up. Hyperspace lanes shifted under human control, and the balance of power changed forever. Network online, Tony reported. Admiral, we now control the infrastructure of the entire galaxy. Good, Sullivan replied. Now let's see how the Council reacts when they realize their ships are flying through our territory. Chancellor Prime Vexhai stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his blue skin pale with worry. The massive chamber on the Council's home world was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all talking at once in a dozen different languages. Order! Vexhai called, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. We will have order! The talking gradually died down as delegates took their seats. Vexhai looked out at the worried faces of galactic civilization's leaders. Fellow counselors, we face an unprecedented crisis. 3 hours ago, the Architect Network activated across the entire galaxy. Nervous murmurs filled the chamber. Nexus Clactor, speaking for the Nexari delegation, rose to address the assembly. Chancellor, our reports indicate that humans are somehow controlling the network. Our fleets attempting to reach human space have been redirected by the hyperspace lanes themselves. Redirected how? Asked a Corthan delegate. The hyperspace routes have changed. Paths that have existed for 50,000 years now lead to empty space. Our ships are being forced to travel at sublight speeds. Vexhai nodded grimly. The same reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Trade routes are disrupted, communication, relays are under foreign control, and transportation networks are responding to unknown commands. A delegate from the Ythran Confederation stood up. Chancellor, are you telling us that humans now control galactic infrastructure? That appears to be the case. Our technical analysts report that every major system, hyperspace navigation, quantum communications, even the power grids on some worlds, is now under human authority. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some delegates demanded immediate military action while others called for negotiation. Vexhai waited for the noise to die down before continuing. The situation is more complex than you realize. Our fleets cannot reach human space because the hyperspace lanes no longer permit it. Our communications with other sectors are being filtered through human-controlled relays. For the first time in 50 millennia, the Galactic Council cannot enforce its will. A reptilian delegate from the Sauron Empire hissed his displeasure. Then we must use conventional drives and attack their worlds directly. With what? Nexus Clactor replied. Our military depends on the same infrastructure the humans now control. Our ships cannot refuel without accessing network facilities. Our weapons cannot be manufactured without the production systems the architects built. The terrible truth was sinking in. Galactic civilization had been built on the foundation of architect technology. For thousands of years, they had used the network without understanding it. Now that humans controlled it, the other species were helpless. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Maria Gonzalez stood in the Situation Room, watching as reports came in from across human space. Defense Secretary Carl Johnson was coordinating with Admiral Sullivan's fleet, while Dr. Nina Foster analyzed the technical data from the network activation. "Madam President," Johnson reported, "all 3 Council fleets have been successfully diverted. They're currently stranded in empty space, approximately 50 light-years from the nearest human colony." "Any hostile actions?" Gonzalez asked. "None. Their ships are intact, but they cannot navigate the hyperspace lanes without our permission." Dr. Foster looked up from her data analysis. "Madam President, we're receiving communication requests from over 300 alien governments. They all want to negotiate." Gonzalez wasn't surprised. "What's our response capability?" "The network gives us instant communication with any point in the galaxy. We can respond to all of them simultaneously if needed." Ambassador Ryan Clark entered the room, having been transported directly from Harmony Station using the newly activated network. "Madam President, the Galactic Council is in chaos," he reported. "Half the delegates are calling for war, the other half want to negotiate. But none of them can do anything because their ships can't reach us." "What about civilian populations?" Gonzalez asked. "Are we affecting their daily lives?" Dr. Foster checked her readings. The network is still providing basic services to all worlds. Transportation, communication, and power systems are functioning normally. We're only restricting military movements and government communications. Johnson nodded approvingly. "Smart. We're showing restraint while demonstrating our capabilities." "Madam President," Ambassador Clark continued, "Chancellor Vexhai has requested emergency negotiations. He's offering to recognize human sovereignty over the network in exchange for guaranteed access to galactic infrastructure." Gonzalez considered this. "What's Admiral Sullivan's status?" "Her fleets are positioned at strategic network nodes throughout the galaxy," Johnson replied. "We now have effective control over all major hyperspace routes and communication hubs." Dr. Foster was monitoring alien fleet movements. "Madam President, several species are attempting to reach their homeworlds using sublight drives. At current speeds, it will take them decades to return home." "They're effectively stranded," Gonzalez realized. "Unless we permit them to use the network," Clark said, "which gives us considerable leverage." Back on the Council's homeworld, Chancellor Vexhai was meeting with his closest advisors. The situation was deteriorating rapidly as reports came in from across the galaxy. "Chancellor," reported his military advisor, "we've lost contact with 17 sector fleets. The humans have shut down all military communication channels." "What about civilian communications? Those appear to be functioning normally." "Civilian ships can still use the hyperspace lanes for commercial purposes, but any vessel identified as military is being blocked." Vexhai walked to the chamber's great window, which showed the busy space traffic around the Council world. Even here, at the center of galactic government, human control was evident. Ships were following new traffic patterns dictated by the network. "Sir," said his diplomatic advisor, "we're receiving reports from our intelligence sources. The humans aren't just controlling existing network infrastructure. They're building new facilities." "Building what?" "Ships, weapons, entire space stations. The network's manufacturing capability has been dormant for millions of years, but the humans have reactivated it." Vexhai felt a chill. The architects had been able to construct fleets overnight using their advanced technology. If humans had access to the same capabilities, how many ships he asked. Unknown, sir. Our long-range sensors show massive construction activity at dozens of locations, but the energy signatures are unlike anything we've seen. On Earth, Dr. Nina Foster was coordinating the network's manufacturing systems. The ancient technology was far beyond human understanding, but it responded intuitively to human operators. Dr. Foster, called her assistant, we have preliminary reports from the construction nodes. What's our production capacity? Incredible. The network can produce a complete starship in approximately 6 hours. Multiple ships can be built simultaneously at different nodes. Foster checked the designs being manufactured. The ships were based on human engineering principles but enhanced with architect technology. They were faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything currently flying. How many nodes are operational? 47 active construction facilities with more coming online every hour. Dr. Foster, at this rate, we could have a fleet of 10,000 ships within a month. The implications were staggering. Not only did humans control galactic infrastructure, they could now build a military force that would dwarf the combined fleets of all other species. President Gonzalez reviewed the situation reports with growing amazement. Dr. Foster, are you telling me we can outproduce the entire Galactic Council? By several orders of magnitude, Madam President. The architect manufacturing technology is completely automated and incredibly efficient. Ambassador Clark leaned forward. Madam President, we need to be careful. The more powerful we become, the more desperate the other species will get. Fear could drive them to extreme actions. Defense Secretary Johnson disagreed. With respect, Mr. Ambassador, they can't take extreme actions. We control their ability to move ships and communicate with their fleets. They could attack civilian targets, Clark warned. Species facing extinction sometimes lash out irrationally. Gonzalez nodded. That's why we need to offer them a path forward, something that doesn't involve the destruction of their civilizations. What did you have in mind? Johnson asked. Partnership, Gonzalez said. We control the network, but we don't have to rule the galaxy. We can share access in exchange for cooperation and recognition of human authority over the infrastructure. Doctor. Foster looked up from her monitors. Madam President, we're receiving a priority transmission from Chancellor Vexhai. He's requesting immediate negotiations. Put him through, Gonzalez ordered. The Chancellor's image appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and worried, but determined. President Gonzalez, I am Chancellor Prime Vexhai of the Galactic Council. I believe we need to discuss the future of galactic civilization. I agree, Chancellor. What are you proposing? A new arrangement. Recognition of human authority over the architect network in exchange for guaranteed access for peaceful purposes. The Council would acknowledge human leadership while maintaining autonomy over internal affairs. Gonzalez considered the offer. It was essentially everything humanity could want. Control of the galaxy's infrastructure without the burden of... Dr. Elena Martinez stood at the entrance to the deepest chamber of the Keth 7 facility, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. The ancient structure had transformed completely over the past month. Where once there had been dark corridors and silent crystals, now there was a thriving complex of interconnected chambers filled with active technology. Elena, are you sure about this? Asked Jake Patterson, checking his equipment one final time. The linguist had been working around the clock to decode the network's increasingly complex communications. The network is calling us deeper, Elena replied, studying the symbols that now covered every surface of the facility. Dr. Chen's translations are clear. There's something at the center that we need to find. Captain Alex Morrison approached with a team of Marines. Dr. Martinez, we've established communication relays throughout the facility. If anything goes wrong, we can pull you out immediately. Elena nodded, but she knew that conventional rescue might not be possible where they were going. The deepest chamber existed in a state of quantum flux, existing partially outside normal space-time. Dr. Lisa Chen hurried over with her latest translation work. Elena, I've decoded more of the central chamber inscriptions. The facility isn't just a network node, it's a preservation system. Preservation of what? The original architects. Elena, I think they're still here. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Still here how? Some kind of stasis system. The inscriptions refer to the long sleep of the builders and waiting for the children to return. Elena, what if the architects didn't disappear? What if they've been sleeping here for millions of years? Jake looked at the chamber entrance, which pulsed with soft light. Sleeping and waiting for humans to find them. Elena made her decision. We're going in. Jake, Lisa, stay close to me. The network responds strongest to direct human contact. They entered the chamber together, and immediately Elena felt the familiar sensation of the technology recognizing her presence. But this time, the response was different. The crystals didn't just activate, they seemed to welcome her home. The chamber was vast, stretching far beyond what the external structure should have allowed. Crystalline formations rose from the floor like pillars, and energy flowed between them in complex patterns. At the center of the chamber stood something that took Elena's breath away. It was a pool of liquid light, perfectly circular and about 10 meters across. The surface wasn't quite liquid and wasn't quite energy. It seemed to be something else entirely. Around the pool's edge, symbols flowed like living text. What is it? Jake whispered. Dr. Chen approached the symbols carefully. It's a message, a very long message. She began reading from her translation device. Welcome, children of Earth. You have returned to claim your heritage. The cycle ends. The builders wake. As if responding to her words, the pool began to change. The liquid light swirled faster, and shapes began forming beneath its surface. Elena, Dr. Chen called urgently, the symbols are changing. New text is appearing. Elena moved closer to read the fresh inscriptions. What does it say? Instructions. It's telling us to enter the pool. Jake stepped back instinctively. Enter it? Is that safe? Before anyone could answer, the pool's surface began projecting images. Elena saw star maps, technical diagrams, and what looked like historical records. But the images weren't just displayed. They were being transmitted directly into her mind. She saw the truth. Millions of years ago, early humans had achieved incredible technological advancement. They had built the galactic network, explored distant worlds, and established a civilization that spanned the stars. But then came the disaster, a cosmic catastrophe that threatened all life in the galaxy. The architects, the original human civilization, had created the preservation system as a last resort. Rather than watch their species die out, they entered stasis, placing their consciousness into quantum storage while their bodies were preserved in the network's facilities. Elena, are you seeing this? Jake asked, his voice filled with wonder. Elena nodded. The images were flowing into all their minds now. The pool was some kind of interface designed to connect living humans with the preserved consciousness of their ancestors. They've been waiting, she whispered, waiting for humanity to rediscover space travel and find the network. Dr. Chen was reading the new symbols as fast as they appeared. Elena, the text says the architects are ready to wake up, but they need living humans to serve as anchors, to help them return to physical existence. How many of them are there? Jake asked. Elena studied the flowing data. The answer was staggering. Billions of human consciousness had been preserved across the network. The original architect civilization had been vast, spanning thousands of worlds. All of them, Elena said. Every human who lived during the architect age. They're all here, sleeping in the network. The pool's surface began to glow brighter, and Elena felt an irresistible pull toward it. The network was calling to her, offering to bridge the gap between past and present. Elena, don't, Jake warned. We don't know what will happen, but Elena was already moving toward the pool. She could sense the sleeping minds beyond its surface. Millions of years of accumulated knowledge and experience waiting to be shared. The network needs human contact to complete the awakening process, she said. Someone has to make the connection. She stepped into the pool and immediately felt energy flowing through her body. But it wasn't painful. It felt like coming home. Images flooded her mind. She saw the architect civilization at its height. Massive cities floating in space, ships that could cross the galaxy in minutes, technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level. She saw the cosmic disaster that had forced them into stasis, a wave of destructive energy that swept across the galaxy, killing everything in its path. But most importantly, she saw the plan they had made. The architects had known that their descendants would eventually rediscover space travel. They had designed the network to guide humanity back to its origins, to reunite the sleeping past with the living present. Elena felt other minds touching hers through the pool. Ancient humans who had lived when the galaxy was young, their consciousness preserved in quantum storage for millions of years. "Welcome home, daughter," said a voice in her mind. It belonged to a woman who had been a scientist during the architect age. "We have waited so long for this moment." "Are you real?" Elena asked. "As real as memory and knowledge can make us. We are the preserved essence of our civilization, waiting to be reborn through you and your people." Elena felt tears on her cheeks. "How do we bring you back?" "The network will guide you. But first, you must understand your true heritage. You are not just descendants of the architects, you are the architects awakening from a long dream." The pool's energy intensified, and Elena felt herself being lifted out of normal space-time. She could see the entire galaxy from a perspective that transcended physical location. The network spread out before her like a vast web of light, connecting billions of worlds and trillions of preserved minds. "The other species," Elena said, "what happens to them?" "They continue as they have," replied another ancient voice. "We did not build the network to rule others, but to preserve knowledge and enable cooperation. The galaxy is large enough for all." Elena began to understand. The architects hadn't been conquerors. They had been caretakers, building infrastructure that would serve all species for millions of years. Even their own preservation system had been designed to activate only when humanity was ready to responsibly inherit their legacy. "What do you need from us?" Elena asked. "Partnership. Your living minds can provide us with new bodies, new perspectives, new life. In return, we offer you the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of an entire civilization." Elena felt the offer's appeal. Instant access to millions of years of scientific advancement, cultural development, and philosophical understanding. Humanity would gain capabilities beyond their wildest dreams. But there was something else in the connection. love. The sleeping architects weren't just offering knowledge. They were welcoming their children home. Elena! Jake's voice seemed to come from very far away. Elena, you've been in there for hours. Elena realized that time moved differently within the pool's quantum field. What felt like minutes to her had been hours in the outside world. She felt herself being gently returned to normal space-time. The ancient voices began to fade, but the connection remained. The awakening has begun, said the scientist's voice. Across the galaxy, our people stir. Soon, the architects will walk among the stars once more. Elena stepped out of the pool, forever changed. She carried within her mind the memories and knowledge of the architect civilization. But more than that, she carried their purpose: to serve as guardians and guides for all the species of the galaxy. Elena, Dr. Chen said urgently, the network is activating on a massive scale. We're receiving reports from facilities across the galaxy. Elena smiled, feeling the awakening presence of her ancient ancestors. They're coming home, Lisa. After millions of years, the architects are finally coming home. Elena stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. Chancellor, look at our world. See how we've preserved it despite our technological advancement. The architects learned to balance progress with wisdom. We won't repeat the mistakes that led to the great catastrophe. What catastrophe? Vexhai asked. The reason the architects entered stasis, Elena explained. A wave of destructive energy that swept across the galaxy millions of years ago. We built the preservation system to ensure that someone would survive to maintain the network and guide younger species. The Chancellor was quiet for a long moment. So humans aren't just the architects' descendants. You are the architects, returned, to active life. Yes, Elena said simply, and our purpose remains the same, to serve as guardians and guides for galactic civilization. Over the following days, negotiations proceeded smoothly. The Council agreed to recognize human authority over the network in exchange for guaranteed access and technological sharing. More importantly, they began to understand that humans had no interest in conquering or ruling other species. Admiral Sullivan received regular reports on the awakening process throughout the galaxy. Ancient architect facilities were revealing themselves on hundreds of worlds, and humans who entered the quantum pools emerged with enhanced abilities and shared memories. Admiral, Commander Park reported during one of their daily briefings, we now have over 250,000 awakened architects. They're establishing new colonies and research stations throughout the galaxy. Any problems with local populations? Sullivan asked. None reported. The awakened architects seem to have inherited their predecessors' diplomatic skills. They're working with local governments and species rather than displacing them. Sullivan nodded approvingly. The transition was proceeding more smoothly than anyone had hoped. On Keth 7, Elena Martinez stood in the crystal chamber where everything had begun. But now she wasn't alone. The chamber was filled with awakened architects, their minds connected through the quantum network. The first phase is complete, said Dr. Lyra Vex through Elena's voice. The network is fully operational, and our people have returned to active life. What comes next? Asked Jake Patterson, who had also undergone the awakening process and now carried the memories of an architect-engineer. Exploration, Elena replied. There are entire regions of the galaxy we never explored before the catastrophe. New species to meet, new worlds to discover, new knowledge to gain. Dr. Chen, now enhanced with architect linguistic knowledge, pointed to the star displays. The network extends beyond this galaxy. There are connections to other star systems we haven't even imagined." Elena smiled, feeling the excitement of her ancient memories mixing with her modern human curiosity. "Then we'll explore them together. The awakened architects and their human descendants working side by side to understand the universe. Through the quantum network, she could sense awakened architects across the galaxy beginning new projects, making new discoveries, and fulfilling the... Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the command deck of the newly constructed flagship Horizon, watching as ships emerged from hidden facilities throughout the Sol system. The vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Sleek, powerful, and built using architect technology that had been sleeping for millions of years. "Admiral," reported Commander David Park, "we have confirmation from all network nodes. The awakening process is complete across the galaxy." Sullivan nodded, still amazed by the transformation that had occurred over the past week. Since Elena Martinez's connection with the preservation system, ancient architect facilities had been activating throughout the galaxy. Humans who entered the quantum pools emerged with enhanced capabilities and shared memories of the original civilization. "How many have awakened?" Sullivan asked. "Over 50,000 so far," Park replied. "The process is accelerating as more facilities come online. Admiral, we're essentially witnessing the resurrection of an entire civilization." Through the main viewer, Sullivan could see the massive construction platforms that had emerged from Jupiter's moons. They were building ships, space stations, and technologies that humanity had never imagined possible. "Any response from the Galactic Council?" she asked. "Chancellor Vex High has requested another meeting with President Gonzalez. The Council fleets are still stranded, but they're not showing any hostile intentions." Sullivan understood why. The Council had seen the capabilities of the awakening network. Their long-range sensors had detected the massive construction projects, the emerging fleets, and the activation of technologies they had thought were permanently dormant. On Earth, President Maria Gonzalez was meeting with Ambassador Ryan Clark and the newly awakened architect representatives. Elena Martinez was there, but she was no longer quite the same person who had entered the quantum pool. She carried within her the memories and knowledge of Dr. Lyra Vex, a scientist who had lived during the height of architect civilization. "Madam President," Elena said, her voice carrying an unusual depth and authority. "The Council delegation has arrived at the agreed coordinates. They're requesting permission to enter the Sol system." Gonzalez nodded. "What's our security status?" "Complete," replied Defense Secretary Carl Johnson. "We have overwhelming superiority in every category. The awakened architects have shared technologies that are millions of years ahead of anything the Council possesses." Ambassador Clark leaned forward. "Madam President, I recommend we approach this carefully. The Council species aren't our enemies. They're fellow inhabitants of the galaxy who have been using our ancestors' infrastructure without knowing its origins." Elena smiled, and for a moment Gonzalez could see the ancient wisdom that now shared space with her friend's consciousness. "Ryan is correct. The architects never intended to rule the galaxy. We built the network to serve all species. But we need to establish clear authority," Johnson argued. "The Council has to understand that humans control the infrastructure they depend on." "They already understand that," Elena replied. "What they need to understand is that we're not their conquerors. We're their partners in maintaining galactic civilization." An hour later, Chancellor Vex High's ship was escorted into Earth orbit by a formation of architect vessels. The alien leader had never seen technology so advanced, and his fear was evident as he transported to the diplomatic facility. President Gonzalez met him in a chamber overlooking Earth's blue oceans. The room was decorated with art from both human and architect cultures, showing the continuity between past and present. "Chancellor HFY," Gonzalez said as they shook hands, "welcome to Earth." The tall alien looked nervous but determined. "President Gonzalez, I must confess that the Council is overwhelmed by recent developments. We had no idea that humans were connected to the architects." "We didn't know either until recently," Gonzalez replied. "Our archaeologists discovered the truth quite by accident." Elena entered the chamber, and HFY's eyes widened. He could sense something different about her, and presence that was older and more powerful than any human he had encountered. "Chancellor," Elena said, inclining her head respectfully, "I am Dr. Elena Martinez, but I also carry the memories of Dr. Lyra Vex, one of the original architects. We remember your species." HFY's skin turned even paler. "You remember us?" The Zephyrians were one of the first species to achieve interstellar travel after the architects entered stasis. "We watched your civilization develop through the network's monitoring systems. You have grown into a wise and capable people." The Chancellor sat down heavily. "The architects were watching us." "Watching and protecting," Elena replied. "The network has been maintaining galactic stability for millions of years, preventing wars, facilitating trade, ensuring that younger species had the infrastructure they needed to thrive." Gonzalez leaned forward. "Chancellor, we didn't take control of the network to dominate other species. We awakened it because it's our responsibility as the architect's inheritors." "What does this mean for the Council?" HFY asked. "It means partnership," Elena said. "The architects built the network to serve all inhabitants of the galaxy. That mission hasn't changed." Ambassador Clark activated a holographic display showing the galactic network. "Chancellor, we're proposing a new arrangement. The network remains under human administration, but access is guaranteed for all peaceful species." "What about trade, transportation, communication?" HFY asked. "All continue as before," Gonzalez replied, "but with improvements. The awakened architects can enhance the network's capabilities, making travel faster and communication more reliable." Elena gestured, and the holographic display zoomed in on specific regions. "We're also prepared to share certain technologies. Medical advances, agricultural improvements, environmental restoration techniques, knowledge that can benefit all species." HFY studied the display with growing amazement. "You would share architect technology?" "Selected technologies," Elena clarified. The architects learned that some knowledge must be earned rather than given. But basic improvements to quality of life, those we can share freely. "What do you want in return?" the Chancellor asked. "Recognition of human authority over the network," Gonzalez said. "Cooperation in maintaining galactic stability, and an end to any attempts to restrict human expansion or development." "That seems reasonable," HFY admitted. "But the Council will want guarantees."